For some reason, I've long dreamed of visiting Switzerland, the landlocked fortress of neutrality in Central Europe. Perhaps it was in hopes of seeing large Alp horns. Or maybe it was just a dream of bumping into some nice mountain ladies giggling at altitude. Surely it wasn't for this. But, Roger Federer or no Roger Federer, part 2 of our Europe trip would lead me to the land of chocolate and watches. I would see old farmhouses and mountain backdrops. That's pretty Swiss. And I stayed at an old-looking building with plastic lawn furniture. That's only somewhat Swiss. As for the tired elderly tour guide, I can't decide. But here was my experience.
And even though you have all these really old buildings, they're also very modern inside. They may look old. Some of those houses up on the hill, that barn, I will say right now, is 200 years old. That barn, 300. But you can look at the buildings and see how old they are. Because on the one of the beams, they usually have the date or the year that they were built. Okay.
Morning. We are in Engelberg, which is a mountain town in the Swiss Alps. And you can sort of see behind me what the mountains look like up here. It's going to be a cold day. And we are going to go up a mountain here. We're going to take the cable car and sort of see that general direction that we're going to go. So let's see what it's like. We are at the top of Mount Titlis, 10,000 feet above sea level. Sort of the top of the world, at least where Switzerland is concerned, or almost the top of the world. It is cold, but it is breathtaking in more ways than one. When we got to the top, we got off the cable car, we immediately felt the lack of oxygen and began to feel a bit dizzy. And taking deep breaths is so important up here, but this is so spectacular. Over there, past the this initial group of mountains, it almost looks like a lake, but that is the cloud cover well below us. I succumbed to some headgear. I think with, well, the regular temperature is about -10, but with wind chill, who knows, -20 perhaps. All I know is that holding this iPhone in my bare hand, my hand is getting very cold. And my head was getting cold. Anyway, over my shoulder, I'm going to try to show this without stepping off the edge here, falling down the side. There's the valley below. And skiers. Absolutely fantastic day.
Another group down there, see them on the water, young kids. Yeah. Oh yeah, all dressed up.
It's morning number 1 in Beausy, which is a little countryside village just east of Geneva. And this is the Ecumenical Institute, the sort of the central point of this trip, at least in terms of the owner of our school. His son attends this place. It's a religious institution, place where people come to study religion. It's a college. There's the man.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody today in iPhone land? It's very nice here. The Ecumenical Institute. We have sweeping views of Lake Geneva off to my shoulder here. The train is running. There's farmland in the distance.
Is that supposed to be a fountain?
I think so. Just a little bit clogged.
Anyway, in the light of day, it's a pretty nice looking place. How did you like the accommodations?
They're all right, actually. This is more my style of place rather than a big budget-style hotel that lots of groups of Asians are coming to and things like that. It's a little bit quieter.
In this case, it's a small group of Asians that we're
It's
chaperoning.
a small group of Asians, but everybody else is all nuns and priests and interesting little place. Party animals here.
Well, and if you've ever spent any time on campus living in dorms, then you're used to what it's like here. Here we are. It's sort of the midpoint of our trip when, getting here. We spend today, tomorrow, and then on Wednesday, if I'm almost forgetting my days now. On Wednesday, we will head south to Florence and then on to Rome. So today, Red Cross, UN, some other things, and tomorrow, CERN, which was sort of one of my pet things about this trip, and I'm really excited about that.
So in the 18th century, the rich citizens of Geneva, the rich families, they made the buildings that you see now on the top of the old ramparts, but looking around with windows looking outside. Before it was impossible. The wall was closing the city, and in the 18th century they were able to make windows, as we see now, with all these buildings made on the top of the old ramparts.
This is the original Roman-built section of this cathedral. I think he said it was dedicated to St. Peter, so maybe St. Peter's Cathedral. But here are the columns, clearly marking the Roman architecture.
Some of the painted roofs of the frescoes painted on the roof. But the part of them have been remade, and all the paintings on the walls are just reconstitutions, supposed reconstitutions of how it was looking originally. But it had been in between used for, not as a chapel, it has been even, they had made a sailing, it was a deposit for anything. And it was also a place for teaching theology in the time of the Romans.
So that was part of our visit to Switzerland. We also took in the rather fascinating Transport Museum in Lucerne and stopped in for a tour at the Red Cross and the United Nations in Geneva. Too bad our young tour guide couldn't tell us anything of interest. My pet destination, the particle physics lab called CERN, was way over everyone's head, as it turned out, in spite of this fellow's efforts to enlighten us. I kind of like that old guy. Our last stop would be the Olympic Museum in Lausanne, and then we would be off to our final destination through a dark, shadowy cloud of Mont Blanc into Italy.